G'day legends. In this video, we're going to take a look at a new EQ plugin from Pulsar Modular, the P422 Fairuzz Resonance EQ. Let's check it out. So this is what the user interface of the Fairuzz EQ looks like. We've got 4 EQ bands to choose from, low shelf and a high shelf, as well as low pass filter and a high pass filter. These bands are stepped, so they got stepped frequencies to choose from. But if you click on this little step over here, it turns it into variable. So then you can sweep through the bands, really pinpoint the frequencies that you're chasing, but the steps do sound really good. There's also the voice knob, where when you turn it clockwise, it adds a little bit extra aggression to the sound and a bit more mid-forward focus. And as you pull it back to the left, it becomes a little bit more deeper and a more open sound. We've got an output trim, so just clean gain for level matching, or if you need to boost it or cut the signal. We've got the mix knob in the top right-hand corner. As you bring this up, you bring the dry signal back in. Each of the 4 EQ bands let you choose between a different style of peaks. So the first one is Punch 1. And this is a push-pull style EQ, which is similar to like a pull tech thing. When you boost and cut the same frequencies, you end up with a boost and then immediately followed by a little bit of a dip, which can really help you add a lot of focus to the area that you're trying to EQ. So when we click on the next one over, this is Punch 2, and this is an extension from Punch 1, but it's a little more exaggerated with double the amplitude, meaning that that push and pull is going to be a lot more exaggerated. And our third option is Peak. This lets us do a nice bell shape where we can do some nice musical boosts or cuts. As you increase the gain, the slope starts to get a lot steeper. So an interesting fact with the low and the high shelves, after your low shelf boost, there is a small dip, which is going to flatter the area that you boosted. As well for the high shelf, there's a small dip and then the high shelf boost, which again flatters the sound. When we turn on the hammer, it applies another transformer circuit to the EQ, which tightens the low end, but it also intensifies the signal by adding extra harmonic information. While the hammer's engaged, as you turn the voice knob, you'll hear a more dramatic difference in sound. Also, while hammer's engaged, you have the option to oversample the plugin as well. Got a force mono switch, so you can just force your signal into mono by clicking that. You've got the A/B selectors, which allows you to EQ the signal one way, and then you can jump over to B and EQ it another way, and then you can jump between the two and see what sounds best to you. Or you could even leave one completely blank and use it as a before and after kind of thing. We've also got a bypass button and a polarity button. You can resize the plugin in the corner here, which is pretty cool. And then when you hit that S button, it saves that instance of the plugin. So if you close it and reopen it, it's going to be the same size. So let's try this out on a couple of different sounds and see how it works. All right, so I've got a bit of a funky blues kind of jam here. Let's have a listen to what this sounds like. So pretty fun. Now let's try this out on our kick out. I want to try and add some extra sub. So this is what our kick out sounds like currently. It's just got a gate on it at the moment. It's cool. It's a little bit like low mid heavy. I want to make it into a bit more sub kick kind of sounding so we can emphasize those subby frequencies. So you can hear it's doing a little bit of that pull tech kind of thing where it's boosting the frequency range, but then straight after it's cleaning it up with a little bit of a dip. Let's have a listen to what the tremor does. It's definitely enhancing those subby frequencies a little bit. Let's do a little bit of a cut in these low mids maybe. It sounds pretty nice. That's nice. Take out some of the really high frequencies, use a bit of a low pass on it. The high pass is also tightening that low end up a little bit. Sounds nice. See what this voice knob does. You can hear the mids get a little bit crunchier. That sounds nice. Really giving it that thumpy low end that I wanted to hear. Pretty easy to get there as well. Let's blend this in with our drums. here, it's out of phase. It's kind of cancelling out the low end. So we hit our polarity now. Sounds nice, giving the kick some nice weight. I really like that. So that polarity button is really useful, especially if you're using high pass, low pass filters. Sometimes the phase gets mixed up a little bit, and especially if you're working with like multiple mic instruments, being able to flip the polarity is really helpful. As you saw, we flipped it back into phase with the kick. It sounded really good. Okay, what about our snare drum? So all we've got on here is a bit of an expanded gate, and otherwise it's completely raw. Okay, so what I want to do is sort of focus the fundamental a little bit more, maybe take out a little bit of the ring and just add a little bit of air to the top end, bring out a little bit of that nice presence in the snare drum. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on hammer mode. I want a little bit of extra harmonic content on the snare, as well as then I'm going to boost this low gain, and then we're going to sweep through the band until we find a sweet spot. We've got it on punch 1 at the moment. I feel like that's fattening the snare up nicely, bringing out that low end in it. Let's clean up the mids a little bit. Okay, settled on punch 2, and then pulled down 5 dBs at 290 Hertz, cleaning up a bit of that ringiness in the snare. Pushing a little bit of voice into it. Add some high shelf, come down the bottom here. A little bit of that sounds pretty nice. Let's add a touch more presence to the top end now. This low pass filter, take off a little bit of the high end, maybe up to 15K. Let's see what it sounds like if we play the mix knob. Don't mind it at around 10%. Let's hear this in the mix. So it's always good to make changes in the context of the mix as well. I know we're doing a lot of stuff in solo to hear how it sounds, but hearing it in the mix, I feel like we could push the low end a little bit harder. So I'm gonna bring this up to maybe peak 2 and change our band to maybe around 150 Hertz and then boost that up. That sounds better. A little bit of extra thickness to it. Now we'll try this out in the snare drum while we're here. A cool thing that you can do is you can boost the gain on all of these right up, and then you can turn each band off by clicking on the LED. And then we can push voice over to 100, put the hammer on, put oversampling on. And now this is working as like saturation, because when you boost the gain, it's adding like op amp saturation to the signal. And even though you turn the band off, the saturation is still applied to that region. So cool little trick there. And then you can come up to the mix knob and you can blend this to taste. So let's have a listen to what it sounds like with the full saturation going. So I wouldn't say it's an over dramatic amount of saturation. It's actually a really pleasant sound. It's not like when you turn it up, it's all of a sudden super distorted. it's just a nice, pleasant amount of saturation, which sounds good. And I'm gonna blend this in at about 40% dry. So we've got two instances of Fairuzz on here. We've got our EQ and then our saturation version. Sounds really nice. And just quickly, let's try this out on our drum bus and see what we can add to it. Maybe a little bit of high shelf and low shelf might do the trick. He had us focusing the kick as well. So that little dip after 100 Hertz, and then we've got our shelf boosting below 100 Hertz. It's really focusing the low end. Really sweetening the sound of the drums actually, really like that. Let's try this out on the bass guitar. Okay, so I've turned off the original processing that was on the bass and have a listen to what this bass sounds like without anything on it. It sounds like this bass was not recorded very well. So something's happened to this recording, but let's see if we can fix it a little bit. I think we could fix a lot of our problems by doing a cut around sort of 300, 400 Hertz. It's already making the bass sound a lot thicker. Because our kick's occupying a lot of the subby region, we don't want to go too heavy on the sub in the bass. We want to give it its own space. So let's push it around 120 Hertz. Make it a little bit punchier and a bit more forward in the mix. Give it some low shelf. Let's give it a low pass. Here are some of this high frequency stuff that we don't really need. Like how it's making the bass sound a little bit richer and deeper as we pull it to the left on the voice knob. So we cut away a bit of 400 Hertz. Let's enhance the mid-range a little bit above it, maybe around 800 to 1K. That sounded kind of cool. Let's hear it in the mix. That sounds nice, really thickened the bass up. Got rid of that sort of annoying honky mid-range sound that was going on. All right, so what about on an organ? Let's see if we can kind of make this sparkle a little bit better. So I've thinned it out a bit. I've made it maybe a little shriller sounding, but I think in the context of the mix, this is gonna make it take up a little bit less space, but be a little bit more exciting. So I think that worked pretty good. It cleared some space for the Rhodes Wurlitzer style keys that are in there, as well as the electric guitars. And it's made the organ a little bit more exciting and it cuts through the mix a bit better. And it's so easy to sweep through these bands. I don't even feel the need to go into the variable selector because the steps all sound really good. Let's try this out on one more source. Let's see what the Fairuzz can do on a lead vocal.
Something tells me she's been here before. Mysterious girl has me wanting more.
Let's have a listen to these two lines back to back.
Mysterious girl has me wanting more. Mysterious girl has me wanting more.
It sounds way harsh without the EQ on, and this EQ sounds just really nice and smooth on the vocal. Really liking it. Okay, so we've got Fairuzz on the kick out, we've got it on our snare drum, and we also have it on the bass and vocals. Let's listen to what it sounds like when we bypass all of these off.
Something tells me she's been here before. Mysterious girl has me wanting more. I know I gotta behave.
So just on those couple of elements, the mix sounds so much better with Fairuzz on. Really cool. Let's try it on one more thing on the mix bus. So it's crazy. You can hear it's making a massive difference. The low end sounds tighter. It also sounds a lot richer and fuller, as well as the high end's nice and sweet. Everything that we've done has just enhanced the mix and made it sound a lot nicer. So it's a really cool EQ, and it's also an original design. It's not based off of anything. Sure, there's ideas of like push and pull frequencies, but there's no EQ exactly like this out there. This is its own original design, which is awesome. So if you think this EQ looks good and you want to try it out for yourself, there'll be a link in the description below. Head over to Pulsar Modular's website and try it out for yourself. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support this channel, check out the link in the description to my website. Got a bunch of drum samples and mixing courses. Grabbing any of those is a massive support. If you want to check out another awesome Pulsar Modular plugin, then stick around for this next video.